Hey everyone, Dan here. We are just a few minutes after close on Tuesday, March 30th. Wanted to check in on some of the stocks that we're watching. And as always, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. Please add any comments below if you have thoughts or questions or tickers that you'd like me to cover. I review the comments every weekend and we'll get back to you then. Okay, so Palantir had a really good day today, not just because it had this run up here, but because it was able to run up and then not immediately retrace back, which we've seen it do in the past. So it held that run up relatively well, and then at the end of the day, pushed itself out of this really detrimental, long-standing downtrend. So it's finally peeking its head out of there. We have previously seen it just peek its head out. So it's basically in that same realm, but hopefully this time it can establish at that support level, which is this blue zone at 21.97, get itself a foothold there, and then 22.27, and then come up to fill this gap. So this gives me more confidence that Palantir is marching itself upward to fill that gap, which would top out at about 22.66 or so. And so then we'll have to see what it does when it gets to there. But that's where I'm looking for Palantir to go in the coming days. And it'll be interesting to see how it gets there. On the sort of cautionary side of things, it isn't a long-term downtrend. So it has a lot of momentum that it needs to gain to push up. So be careful that it doesn't come back down and start hugging the top line of this channel and continue down that way. But I'm really, the first most important thing is that 21.97 has true support, and that'll give it a lot of strength, in my opinion. Baidu did the thing that we said it was going to do, which is really good if you want to be bullish on Baidu at the moment. So what we had said last night was, it was basically had formed this weird version of an uptrend. And I said at that time, this is really steep and it's formed in a really weird way. So don't be surprised if it doesn't actually continue to follow that white trend line up. But if it kind of kicks itself into this orange channel and walks itself up using the orange channel. And so you're seeing exactly that as the day played out today. That's where we are. And I think it's a really good sign for Baidu. And as long as it can hold this channel, kind of like one of the next things I'd like to see it do actually is test the bottom of this channel. Not only would that give us a dip buy opportunity, but it would, to me, it would truly establish the channel, that's where that bottom position is going to be. It could still be forming a channel even if it comes below it. It may just be a bit of a different channel. So we'll see what it does in the next couple of days, but we'll have answers maybe as early as close tomorrow in terms of if this is a channel that we can look for or if there's a different channel that's going to be forming. FCEL, we haven't looked at in a little while, but somebody had asked me to do an update on it. It's not looking superb. It's sort of having a similar kind of situation to a lot of the other stocks that we were looking at that that have been having a hard time lately, essentially all the growth stocks. But it, is caught in this not really very clear down channel. I mean, obviously it was caught in a down channel, but it's not super clean. But in any case, it broke out, but it immediately tried to sort of continue to follow that trend down. And even this potential build up here for a trend line, isn't forming super well in my opinion. It would be nice to see this having caught this area, sort of like if this price action had never happened. It would be much more clean, much more confidence in the potential for it to regain some bullish price strength. But this is where we are, so it's sort of just flattening out. I think what we're going to have to look for here is, potentially like a little bit of a flagging out between these two and see how that plays out. But, it's not my favorite setup, that's for sure. I would much prefer a channel or just a more clean trend line support. But we'll see if it continues to confine itself sideways in this flag and see what it does toward the end of the week, where maybe it can break itself out. APHA did the nice thing that we were looking for today, which is break its trend line resistance. And so it's broken this resistance trend and even tested it a couple of times, which is nice to see. That sort of gives you more confidence that it's actually going to bounce off of it. So now it's beginning this like uptrend, which is pretty steep. So it might not maintain exactly this, which would require lots of price energy. And so it might flatten out a little bit and form itself a nice channel is what we'd be looking for. But you know, the first most important thing is going to be that it doesn't re-top out in this area. We want to make sure that it can get basically solidly above the 18 level and get itself some support there, because then we'll feel confident that it's not just going to get sold off as it hits that level again, which we've seen several times in the past. DISCA is also doing the really nice thing, which is marching itself toward the upper bound of this trend line and following this slow but steady build-up on the orange support trend line. So as long as it continues to show nice bounces off of that, you know, we can start to get pretty confident in that trend line. Gives us potential areas to dip by as it gets to the bottom where it is right now, and then ride it up a little bit. The challenge for now is we don't exactly know what the channel looks like, so it's hard to select a take profit area with this kind of a setup, especially with this former downtrend coming so quickly. It may be much more of a conservative play to let it work itself through this this resistance trend line and see what it does when it hits that, because that might set off some fireworks in either direction. So we'll have to see what happens when we get there. GameStop is doing a really good job of staying in this purple channel. I know it sort of fell out today and got itself back in, but the thing to look for that is fine is when something does consolidate and break its channel, it immediately starts hugging that channel again, turning the lower bound of the channel into a resistance point that's actually typically just as fine as if it were in the channel. And usually what you see when it does start hugging the channel in that way from underneath is it's just going to pop itself back in the near future. So that's what we're seeing with GameStop currently. Looks pretty strong to me. And I would be looking for these yellow support zones to continue to hold. As we ride this up, as we talked about yesterday, ride this up back to that 224 level. Viacom could be a really good dip play if things continue to form as they started to today. So it broke this previous downtrend line and it just consolidated itself out. And for a stock that's been beaten down so hard, so viciously, for it to even establish this sideways action can require a lot of momentum because it takes a lot to pump the brakes when there's this much pressure downward. So pumping the brakes and getting some footing is actually a good bullish sign. And now it's broken the trend line, so that trend line continues to flatten out and gives it the opportunity to turn itself into a channel that we can ride up. So it has like a not even worth drawing higher low situation going on, but it's not the like really solid move up that we'd be looking for. It could be a good option if you were taking a longer term position in Viacom. This might be a good starting point to start to build your position, and then as it gains more momentum or gains more strength, it'll give you an opportunity to add to your position with more confidence. FUBO also consolidated itself out of its downtrend, which we knew it would either have to or was going to get pushed down further because that was hitting its most recent support in the overnight hours last night. And so as you see, it immediately started to test this 2285 zone that we had charted and bounced off of it. But it didn't bounce all the way down to 2059, which is good because it's already tested 2059 enough. All of this activity here, here, and here are plenty for us to say that's a solid support zone. And now it coming down and not testing that full zone again is a good sign that the buying pressure is coming in at a higher price point than it was previously. And that's how you start to build some higher lows and create a channel. NIO had a pretty solid day. It's bounced right off of this 34.59. It essentially did the thing that FUBO did from the perspective of it has formed support at this 34.59 enough times. And so it's nice that it jetted itself through a couple of resistance levels and then started to consolidate. So it also didn't do anything that resembles a sad face. This is a really good sign. Just keep in mind, though, we have seen this before, right? Big run up, a bunch of sideways action, and then the following day, it made the sad face. So watch for it tomorrow. Make sure it's not going to come down and make a sad face. If it does have some selling pressure tomorrow, the best thing would be if it gets caught by that 36.47 zone. But the next best thing is 35.58, and that to me would be fine because again, that would say it's already tested this 34.59 enough, and it doesn't have to come all the way back there to get enough buying pressure to push itself back up. So that's what I'll be looking for to see if NIO is potentially actually in recovery mode or if it's another fake out like we've seen a few times recently. And finally, Tesla had sort of a similar situation to the other stocks we talked about that broke their long-term downward trend line, that resistance trend. And it broke through really strongly today. Struggled a little bit on that 622.55 that we had charted, and basically had it as support, then resistance, and then blew through it, and now is testing this other area that we had charted, which is the, I know you've heard me complain about how hard it is to read sometimes, but 636.15 is what it's struggling with right now. So we want to see it develop support there, and then I'm starting to feel really confident that we're coming up to fill this gap. So that would get us price action all the way up to 645. And then it'll be interesting to see what happens. Was it coming up just to fill the gap and then it's going to run itself back down? Or did that give it enough bullish price action and momentum to carry it upward? In any case, I don't think it'll continue this trend line. It's a very steep trend line. If it followed this trend line, it would put it basically at like 675 at close tomorrow. And I mean, it could happen, but this is just to say if this flattens out a bit and it doesn't follow this steep of a trend line, don't think that means that it's going into sell-off mode. It just means it's developing a more realistic channel to walk itself up. Well, that'll do it for today. I appreciate you watching. Please share these videos if you get a chance. That also helps a lot. And I'll put timestamps in the first comment, which I probably should have said at the beginning of the video. I'll try to start to do that. All of these things to get better at with these videos. But in any case, I'll see you here. I'll see you on Twitter or wherever we may meet. Thanks for watching. Good luck this week, and I'll see you all in the next video.